Okay. Your tech crew and worship associates today are working on our competence, and I would say we have come quite a distance. So, another form of generosity is everyone who has been helping us plan and carry out services. It's just been really incredible. So, join me. I'm going to read a little piece for our meditation, and then we'll spend just a few moments in silence together. Spirit of life, eternal mystery that holds us close, receive the meditations of our hearts today. We come together in this quiet moment to unify our hearts again towards the clarion call of our time. May justice and equity guide us to great connection, a greater truth. Our part is just as great, to approach dismantling systems of oppressions within us in order for us all to be free. To know that when I cherish and tend to the divine spark within me, when I know in my bones that I am worthy of love and whole just as I am, that there is greater potential for mutual understanding and care. Love is not scarce. Our ability to extend compassion and grace can be. I place my hand over my heart and know that I can feel the spirit of life within me. I invite you to place your hand over your heart and feel the spirit of life within you. The spirit of life is divine within us. The spirit of life is here. This is the beginning of justice and equity where we go within in order to be of service to our communities and our world. May it be so. Take a few moments to be together in silence. Breath and come back to this space. And then I think you need to put this light down and it'll just be me. All right. Well, some of you may not know, but Poetry Sunday has been something that's been going on probably longer than I've been in the church. There was a time when there were a scant few of us in the summer when we would just sit around a table and everybody would bring a book and you would share a poem that appealed to you. This is slightly more structured, but not very much, because it kind of has to be a little bit of spontaneity. I want to start with this quote that I have had for years, because I think it perfectly explains something about poetry. The day after the alphabet was invented, someone started thinking up patterns of letters that would stand for real things. STAR would stand for those bright points of light in the night sky that did not burn the eyes as the sun did. LILY would stand for the sweet-smelling trumpets that grew in the shade of the biggest trees. And RIVER would stand for the broad expanse of wetness that grew to a pounding torrent after RAIN fell from the sky. Eventually, the very sight of these words on a page would evoke their presence through the genius of the human imagination, so that it became possible to see a star, smell a lily, or swim in a river without ever making physical contact with any of these things. Better yet, meeting them on the page did not carry the same risks of stinging bees, biting snakes, or chilling currents that meeting them in the flesh did. The words offer detours around all such dangers. And here is another quote from Wisława Szymborska. In the language of poetry, where every word is weighed, nothing is usual or normal. Not a single stone and not a single cloud above it. Not a single day and not a single night after it. And above all, not a single existence, not anyone's existence in this world. There's some things I like about both of those passages because they show the power of words to reflect and shape our experience of life. to represent the things we encounter in the world, even in our very lives, just as poetry does. It's another example where language speaks us. Those words shape our very experience of what we see and feel and hear in the world. So on their own, words are powerful, but in the form of a poem, sometimes I think they're even more powerful. So I'm not going to do a formal lecture on poetry because A, I'm not qualified, and B, that would be something for another day. Just some thoughts I've had as I've read and written poems over the years. I've always been struck by how essential every word in a poem is. We're not given a lot of words to show the idea or the feeling. The meaning doesn't develop through some grand story or narrative. The poem is all right here, right now. Now, if you're going to argue that point, you could make a case that things like the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are forms of poetry, are long, plus they're in Greek. So, I mean, what are you going to do about that? Maybe some of you remember, I'm old enough to have been forced to look at the poem called Beowulf when I was in high school English, which is the most incomprehensible lot of syllables and punctuation I've ever seen in my life. I never understood the story either, so sometimes a poem isn't all that good, unless you speak Old English, which I don't. But that is the reason I like poems in general, is because they're just so compact and they're just there. The poet ponders each word, each comma, changing and adjusting till the rhythm matches the message. And I always think that's a little bit like bowling. It's easy to learn and hard to master. Speaking as one person whose highest score in bowling, I think, was 125. In a game that's 300 points, I think there's a long way to go there. It was easy for me to learn, but I have not mastered it yet. It's kind of like there's no room for error in a poem, you know? It's partly that care and energy that's given over to making it just right that gives it its power. I also think that reading poetry out loud is the best. And I learned this in I think it was a conference where I was with Parker Palmer, who is a lovely man, by the way, and he would bring one poem and he would have 4 different people read it. And it was amazing when you heard those different voices, how different the meaning was you took from those words. So that's one reason why we offer the opportunity on this Sunday for people to read their poems that they bring out loud. So today is about your favorite poems. We've done themes over the years. We've done hope, we've done nature, we've done love, we've even done humor. And those were all good. But sometimes you just attach yourself to a poem, or it attaches itself to you. And it's something that you carry with you through your whole life. So as you're thinking about the poems you might read, one of the things I thought about for myself was, when did I first encounter this poem? And what keeps it in my memory is one that I love. And does it say anything about your experience of life? Or if that's too much to think about on a Sunday morning, why do you like it? So take a pick. So here's an example. This is a Robert Frost poem I encountered when I was in high school. And at the time, I was already writing some very bad poems, you know, just sort of filled with adolescent angst and wonderment at the world that was kind of opening up to me. And already for me personally, I was already attuned to the nature around me. So I lived on the prairie. And in the spring, when the prairie grasses start to grow and they're about this tall, usually in March, and the wind blows, it looks like water. And I had never seen the ocean, but in my imagination, that particular color of green in those waving grasses represented to me what it might look like. And as it turns out, it was pretty accurate. I did finally get to the ocean. So Robert Frost captured that thing perfectly. Also, it was a very rhymey poem, and it was easy to learn. And if you wanted to force me to do it, I could still recite that poem from memory. That's how much of an impression it made. So here it is. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaves to flower, but only so an hour. So leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn sinks down to day, nothing gold can stay. So, wow, that was my experience of spring. And in Indiana, spring is an event, right? One we wait for months and months and months and months. But when it first shows up, you know, when the forsythia leaves start to come out, or the tiny leaves on the trees, it is a particular shade of green that, as Frost would say, subsides to another color of green that is darker and brighter. And so spring is very ephemeral that way. And I think that little poem just captured that so well. And I think it said to me, I don't think I was old enough at the time to feel like life is that ephemeral. You know, I was like 14 years old, give me a break. Maybe I feel it more now, you know, it's a little more fragile than I thought it was. But Robert Frost continues to inhabit my memory in a way that I think works for me. So I got one from Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson was another poet that I read a lot of in both high school and college. She wrote 1,775 poems in her lifetime. And if you've read them or seen them, you know they're all very short. And they're all very unique in their punctuation. She really upended the world of poetry, although we didn't know how much, because during her lifetime, very few of those were published. That all came after her death. But she changed the way people put words together in a poem. And she did it in such a powerful way with so few words. And so here's the one that we think about all the time. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And there are two more short verses to that. But I guarantee if you say the name Emily Dickinson, somebody's going to say, oh, hope is the thing with feathers, which of course perfectly captures the nature of hope as well. But the one I want to share today with you is a little bit less well known. So here's the backstory. How did this poem come into my life? So my teaching partner and I were searching for a way to describe the way that we taught nurse practitioners, where basically we took everything that we thought we knew about teaching and turned it upside down. We didn't lecture. We didn't have required readings before class. We brought real people in to show them what it was like to be a patient or a member of a family. And this, I'm just telling you, this was not done in my profession. So it was pretty radical, and we were working on an article, because you know you're always working on an article if you're in an academic life. And I just happened upon this poem by Emily Dickinson, and it perfectly described what we were trying to do. So here it is. The props assist the house until the house is built. And then the props withdraw, and adequate, erect, the house supports itself. And cease to recollect the augur and the carpenter, just such a retrospect have the perfected life, a past of plank and nail and slowness. Then the scaffolds drop, affirming it a soul. Wow. You go, Emily. So I would like to take this opportunity. I have more that I can share, but I wonder if any of you brought one that either you want to read yourself or you want me to read for you. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you read.
Okay.
I'm just enough already.
Yeah, I got a couple like that too.
Yeah, this one is just funny and it makes me laugh, and I always enjoy it. It's an old one from Shel Silverstein.
Oh, Shel Silverstein. Where the sidewalk is.
Yes.
Crowded tub. There are too many kids in this tub. There are too many elbows to scrub. I just wash up behind that I'm sure wasn't mine. There are too many kids in this tub. Oh my God, is that true? We've all come from pretty big families,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, there are always too many kids in the tub.
Well, I was the third of 9 and often had 2 or 3 young ones to bathe at the same time. And it was kind of that same, it always makes me think of that.
That's a great one.
This is another one I really love. It's an old poem everybody recognizes. Robert Frost.
Oh, the road not taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no straw, a step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere, ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Roger knows this poem.
Yeah.
I was warming up, but
You like that one?
We can read it twice.
This always makes me think of my partner, Kim,
Mm.
who I wanted to have children. She was not sure about kids at all. But eventually, we took that path, and she always says, it was a wonderful path, and I'm so glad I took that path, even though it was not what she first thought she'd ever want to do in her life.
Oh,
Thank you.
Kimmy. Roger.
I just would like to do, that is the one that I was going to use. I would like to add to that too, that it became so significant to me later on when I made a choice. And that choice was technically a wrong choice. And I went days and years beyond that. And it led me to the place where I needed. And that choice may have been considered a wrong one, but it was wonderful because it was my choice and it led me to a better life. And I'm so grateful for it. And it just explains it all right there, but yeah, I can't go back and change it. And I don't want to, but I did want one. So thank you for sharing.
Those are such perfect examples of the power a poem can have in your life. You know, and sometimes you have the experience and then you discover the poem. Sometimes you discover the poem and then have the experience. But those are both such beautiful stories. Tom.
I don't have a poem to share, but I do have a Robert Frost story. It's just real short, if you don't mind. But I remember reading his poetry in high school and thinking because it was poetry I read in high school, this was some long dead poet. And then it absolutely shocked me when he showed up in Kennedy's inauguration reading poetry. I said, never forget that. Not all poets are dead.
Very good reminder. I'll just add on to that little story that when Robert Frost could read the poem that he had written for the inauguration, the sun was so bright that he couldn't see the words on the page, and so he recited a poem of his from memory. The land was ours before we were the land's. And I just thought that was pretty amazing because I would have just fallen dead in a faint if that had happened to me. Charlotte, did you have one you wanted to read? Or I can read it for you, whatever you
Well,
want.
I got one I want you.
Okay.
This is an E.E. Cummings. No, I want you to read this. And I ran across Cummings in college. And this particular poem was what I wanted to find in love. So if you'll read that, I will appreciate it.
I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart, and am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. Whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are my world, my true. And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud and the sky of the tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. Well, that made me cry.
And I think I found it. So, it was, I had to have a couple of tries, but you know how that goes. As an adult then, Mary Oliver is the person who steals my heart. And I thought for a Sunday devotions, this book is probably my, always my go-to. This tells you about the kind of person I am. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing? Even the sparrows can do it. And I am, well, hopeless. Is my eyesight fading, or am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally, I saw that worrying had come to nothing, and I gave it up and took my old body and went into the morning and sang. I can't think about poetry without thinking how it can be political too, if you do it. So this is called Of the Empire by Mary Oliver. We will be known as a culture that feared death and adored power. They tried to vanquish insecurity for the few and care little for the penury of many. Thank you. We will be known as a culture that taught and rewarded the amassing of things, that spoke little, if at all, about quality of life for people, other people, for dogs, for rivers. All the world in our eyes they will see was a commodity. And they will say that this structure was held together politically, which it was. And they will say also that our politics was no more than an apparatus to accommodate the feelings of the heart. And that heart in those days was small and hard and full of meanness. Mary Oliver foretold the future. Oh gosh, a while ago. I mean, she's been gone, what, 10 years? It has to be at least 30 years old. So her ability to see into what was coming, I think, is, because I think that's, for me, one of the things as I reflected on that poem as I was reading it again, is that sense of commodity, of every generation having to give your next generation more and more and more and more. There has to be a tipping point. Love never runs out, but I think more does. I mean, you get to the point where you can't take anymore without destroying what you've, kind of created. Another wonderful one that I love of hers is Lead. Here is a story to break your heart. Are you willing? The winter of loons came to our harbor and died, one by one, of nothing we could see. A friend told me of one on the shore that lifted its head and opened the elegant beak and cried out in the lawn, sweet savoring of its life, which, if you have heard it, you will know it's a sacred thing, and for which If you have not heard it, you had better hurry to where they still sing. And believe me, tell no one just where that is. I've done that with places. I don't tell anybody because I don't want it ruined. Tell no one where it is. The next morning, this loon, speckled and iridescent, and with a plan to fly home to some hidden lake, was dead on the shore. I tell you this to break your heart, by which I mean only that it breaks open and never closes again to the rest of the world. I mean, I think that's so true of what we have as our challenge today. I mean, you know, I think about last week and having a park ranger here, and I think about the losing of our natural lands and what people are doing to destroy it. And then I can't put all that downer crap on you without, doing some positive reflection. From this river, when I was a child, I used to drink, is the title of this one. But when I came back, I found that the bone of the river was dying. Did it speak? Yes, it sang out the old songs, but faintly. What will you do? I will grieve, of course, but there's nothing. What precisely will you grieve for? For the river, for myself, my lost joyfulness, for the children who will not know what a river can be, a friend, a companion, a hint of heaven. Isn't this somewhat overplayed? I said, I can be a friend, a companion, a hint of heaven. We have to remember, and we have to stick together to help bring about change and keep what we've always had. So that's my ideas about it.
Thank you very much. Well, I have, since you brought up Mary Oliver, I guess maybe I'll just continue that. You know, it's said sometimes that Mary Oliver is the patron saint of Unitarian Universalism. It's possibly true. If I can find here it is. Sometimes a poem affects you in ways that you don't expect when you first read it. And when I first read this poem or first heard it, it kind of brought me to tears a little bit. And I never have quite figured out that why, but let me read it and see. I think it's about hope, really. It's called Morning Poem. Every morning the world is created. Under the orange sticks of the sun, the heaped ashes of the night turn into leaves again and fasten themselves to the high branches. And the ponds appear like black cloth on which are painted islands of summer lilies. If it is your nature to be happy, you will swim along the soft trails for hours, your imagination alighting everywhere. And if your spirit carries within it the thorn that is heavier than lead, if it's all you can do to keep on, that was the point. If it's all you can do to keep on trudging, there is still somewhere deep inside you a beast shouting that the earth is exactly what it wanted. Each pond with its blazing lilies is a prayer heard and answered lavishly every morning. Whether or not you have ever dared to be happy, whether or not you have ever dared to pray. So that's my Mary Oliver poem. Anyone else have anything on offer? Come on up, Judy. You want me to read it for you, or would you like to read it? Okay. Hang on to things.
It's The Gardener.
Oh my gosh, it's Mary Oliver. Are you stunned and surprised? Why do you like this book?
Well, at my age, you do a lot of looking back.
Mm-hmm.
And she says there,
Oh, okay. Have I lived enough? Have I loved enough? Have I considered right action enough? Have I come to any conclusion? Have I experienced happiness with sufficient gratitude? Have I endured loneliness with grace? I say this, or perhaps I'm just thinking it. Actually, I probably think too much. Then I step out into the garden, where the gardener, who is said to be a simple man, is tending his children, the roses. Oh, that's a good one.
Well, I didn't quite, and still don't quite get the very end of it. So what do you think?
I think that if she's talking about in life, when you overthink, everything takes on more importance than it should. And here's this guy out there just being in love with taking care of his roses. That's my take on it.
Okay, well, that's
Is
nice.
that good enough?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
I thought she is reflecting,
Mhm.
and she goes out and sees the gardener, which my gardener, as you can see, my yard has not been around for a while, but I couldn't understand quite what him and tending his children,
Mhm.
but that's a way to look at it.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. I think as I was looking through this, one of the things I noticed is that my favorites tend to change, depending on what's going on in the world around me and my reaction to that. But I think here's one from Wendell Berry that is almost always on my list. The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows within me and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought or grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Yeah? I think that one spoke to me. Just because there are so many opportunities for being in grief about the way the world is. Okay.
I'm going to start off with one that's kind of stepping down. If you will read for me.
Sure, I'll read for you.
The reason why it stays with me is the fact that it has helped me different times through life when different things have happened. And kind of helped explain.
Okay.
And then I have some others that'll make you laugh, I think.
We'll take all of them. I believe you can love someone so much that your soul actually goes into a state of deficiency in their absence. And over enough time, malnourishment begins to affect the heart and mind. So no matter how healthy someone looks on the outside, you never know what kind of damage the starvation of grief has left behind. That's pretty deep.
Yeah, it is. I apologize.
No, you never have to apologize for a deep poem. That's the whole point of this thing.
This one is uplifting.
It's got pictures too. That
Kind of
helps.
give you a little, I'll tell you.
Wait.
It's not so much a poem, but I like poems and I like statements.
Oh, so this is more of a statement.
Yes, that's more.
The things that make you happy don't have to make sense to anybody else. I like
Right?
it. Mhm.
Okay.
Fun. Okay.
And this one is in honor of the statement.
Oh, Ozzy Osbourne. Music has always been my favorite painkiller.
I'll put you.
Once in a golden hour, I cast to earth a seed, and up there grew a flower that others called a weed. Alfred Lord Tennyson. We can dip into the classics too in this group.
And this is another statement. To me, statements are short forms.
Take a moment to be proud of yourself for surviving the days that felt impossible. You can do that on a daily basis.
Okay, now you want to laugh.
No, that's the one I just read.
Oh, okay. What is the other one? Yeah, but you know who.
Mhm. The turkey shot out of the oven, that's the name of this one. The turkey shot out of the oven and rocketed into the air. It knocked every plate off the table and partly demolished a chair. It ricocheted into a corner and burst with a deafening boom and splattered all over the kitchen, completely obscuring the room. It stuck to the walls and the windows. It totally coated the floor. There was turkey attached to the ceiling where there'd never been turkey before. It blanketed every appliance. It smeared every saucer and bowl. There wasn't a way I could stop it. The turkey was out of control. I scraped and I scrubbed with displeasure and thought with chagrin as I mopped that I'd never again stuff a turkey with popcorn that hadn't been popped.
I'm glad you laughed because I wanted to end with a laugh.
Thank you, Pat. Bonnie? Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you. I thought I could do this by heart, but I was afraid I couldn't. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. This is a poem that my grandma used to tell us, and I was petrified. I still don't know what it means. So after we're done, if somebody wants to explain it to me, but she had such a delicate way of hesitating, and so maybe you've heard this. There was an old woman, as I've heard tell. She went to market her eggs for to sell. She went to market all on a market's day, and she fell asleep on the king's highway. There came a peddler whose name was Stout. He cut off her petticoats around and about. He cut off her petticoats up to her knees, which made the old lady shiver and freeze. When the little old lady first did awake, she began to shiver and she began to shake. She began to wonder and she began to cry. Look at mercy on me, this can't be I. But if it be I, as I hope it is, I've a little dog at home and he'll know me. If it be I, he'll gladly wag his tail. But if it not be I, he'll loudly bark and wail. Home went the little old woman all in the dark. Up got the little dog and he began to bark. He began to bark and so she began to cry. Look at mercy on me, this can't be I. And it scared me to death. I don't know what the point was. I don't know if you did more than cut off her petticoats. That's what I thought maybe happened. Another turkey brought out.
Yeah, we do. We need some limericks, probably. The clean kind. There must be one or two, I'm not sure. All right, well, I'm gonna take a chance here and read something I wrote years ago, and I'll tell you what the situation was. There it is. It was one of those times, as you know, probably, I've been in the world of healthcare my entire career. And once a nurse, always a nurse. You can't even get away from it when you retire. But there was a time when it became apparent to me how physicians and nurse practitioners' relationship with their patients was beginning to change. And a lot of that was due to the fact that we began to rely more on diagnostic tests rather than what doing, for example, a physical could tell you. And that was kind of distressing to me because I really always thought that you learn 90% of what you needed to know by listening to the person, and then you could add 10% more to get where you needed to go. So I apologize in advance because this poem is filled with anatomy and physiology references, but just let those flow over your head. You don't have to really know what they are, I don't think. This is called Laws of the Heart. We have dissected it, pendant quivering under a microscope, searching for those heart-deep secrets. I can tell you how impulses leap across dark Sarcomere canyons, twitching their messages over cross-bridge trails, and the heart beats. I can show you how the parts labor unceasingly, docile in their response to Frank and Starling and Laplace and Cousset, the lawgivers who prodded and poked and cut in search of some unmoving truth. Preload, afterload, stroke volume, resistance, compliance. This chorus I have heard in the telling of our microscopic voyeurism. But I can't tell you this. I don't know why hearts break or how to mend them. Hearts are outlaws in spite of our attempts at scientific arrest. Hearts break the laws of love everlasting, and I will never know why. This mystery is just as it should be. Thank you. Well, I want to thank everybody for contributing today. Did I miss anyone who has a poem to read? Okay. We did.
I have two more statements.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, the first one is growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. And the other one is don't ever complain about getting old because it's a privilege denied to many.
You know, I think Bonnie wisdom is a wonderful way to end a service. And so,
Read a book.
read a book. You can end the recording now, I hope. Or if not, Carmen will figure it out. Our closing words come from Rebecca Savage. As we come to the end of service, may you depart from our time together, buoyed by the